Hello! Hey everybody, and welcome back. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I was on a trip for work and I was gone all week long and finally came back yesterday, like later in the afternoon. I have not done any book related things except maybe listened to my audiobooks a little bit, and I did finish one audiobook while I was gone, but that will be for another video. Other than that, I have not even looked at YouTube at all. I have apparently accumulated many books in this period of time that I've been gone. Not just this past week. Some of these I got a few weeks before then as well. But I am finally ready to film my May book haul. So there are 20 something books here to show you, and since there's so many, I don't really want to go into great detail about each one, so I will mostly be showing the covers and who wrote it, and maybe a little bit about the books, but not too much into detail about each of them because there's a lot of them. I have 4 mass paperback books here that are all continuations of series that I purchased the first book for. I haven't read any of these except for 2 of the books are the next 2 books in a book I'm actually reading right now. Those 2 are The Desert Spear and Daylight War by Peter V. Brett, which is book 2 and 3 in the Demon Cycle, and I am almost halfway through The Warded Man, or The Painted Man, whatever title you want to go by depending on where you live. I think the UK editions are called The Painted Man and the US editions are called The Warded Man, and I am really enjoying this series, so I decided to go ahead and get the next 2 books in it because I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue on. The next sequel I have here is The Fox by Sherwood Smith. This is the 2nd book in the Inda series, and I have yet to start it. All I know is that it is an epic fantasy with pirates, and that's it. Thus the pirate on the front. And then the last mass paperback book I got was Dead House Gates by Steven Erikson. This is the 2nd book in the Tales of Malazan Book of the Fallen, and I have yet to start this. However, I did recently purchase the audiobook for book 1, as well as having the physical copy of it too. So I will probably be starting this series next month, and I wanted to go ahead and get the continuation because I will probably like it. I don't know. I just assume when I think I'll like books and continue series. The next 3 are going to be the 3 graphic novels that I picked up this past month. The first 2 of those being Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Miss Marvel by Wilson, Alfana, and Wyatt. To be honest, I was not all that interested in starting this series. I'm not a huge superhero fan. The only exposure I've had to Marvel is all of the movies that they've made, so I felt like perhaps I would get confused when reading this, but it's very, very popular on Booktube and everyone seems to love it and I want to check it out, so I'm gonna give it a try. The last graphic novel I have here is actually one I've read before and I'm super excited to show you guys because I haven't seen it around Booktube all that often, and it's a really good graphic novel and I'm gonna put it on here to also highly recommend it, and that is Wayward Volume 1 String Theory by Zub, Cummings, Rosh, Bonvillain, and Dylan. And first of all, I absolutely love the artwork, and this is what initially first attracted me to this graphic novel, and I read the synopsis and was just even more intrigued. Essentially, it's about a girl who is half Japanese and half Scottish, I think, or Irish, I can't remember which one, but anyways, she moves to Japan and discovers she has these weird magical powers, and it's very heavily influenced by Japanese mythology. I've been really into reading Japanese mythology stuff lately, so I absolutely loved this. Again, I already read it, and that's why I'm highly recommending that you pick it up if you haven't heard of this graphic novel yet. The next category I will be getting into is the YA that I purchased. The first one is a continuation of a book that I think I told you guys I read, but maybe I didn't. I actually don't remember putting this in one of my wrap-ups, and that is I got the sequel to The Winner's Curse. So I got The Winner's Crime by Marie Rutkatsky, and I don't know if I told you guys this, but I read the first book like 2 months ago, and I honestly can't remember whether I put it in my wrap-up or not. I think I did, but I really enjoyed it, and so I went ahead and picked up the sequel. Have not read the sequel yet, but I've heard very, very good things about the sequel being better than the first book, so I am excited to get to this one. Of course, also needed to pick up A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, which is her newest YA series. I think I've expressed before that I love the Throne of Glass series, and I'm really intrigued to see what she does with a fairy tale retelling, so I'm super excited. Also, not saying it's gonna happen anytime soon, but I have many times thought of cosplaying characters from some novels. I thought of doing Vin, I thought of doing Selena, since she's kind of like on the covers of the books and you kind of can see what she's supposed to look like, so it's an easier cosplay. I absolutely love this dress on this cover, so that might be a thing too. Who knows? For Dragon Con in September. If you're going to Dragon Con in September, which is in Georgia, I'll be there. The other hyped up YA novel that everyone's reading right now that I went ahead and got is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir, and dystopian, I think, with a little bit of fantasy mixed in it. Honestly, I don't know. I just picked it up because everyone else is, and I do have to say the cover for this is gorgeous, and I just want it on my shelf. And the last and final YA novel that I have here is The Novice by Taryn Matheru. This is the first book in a new series called the Summoner series, and it is a YA fantasy, is all I know. When I scanned the back of this while I was at the bookstore, it had a super high rating, like 4 point something, and it got me even more intrigued. Now for the adult fantasy paperbacks. Thief's Magic by Trudy Canavan. I have the first book in another series by her, but I actually haven't read anything of hers, and I'm excited to because I've heard fantastic things about Trudy Canavan. I think this is told through the perspective of two characters, Tien and Riel. Tien finds this ancient book that basically can think and records magical history in it, I think. Not sure. And I'm not sure where Riel comes into the picture, but the two meet and they have an epic fantasy adventure together. A week ago when I got this next book in, I could have told you the name of the booktuber that recommended this, but since it's been a week, I kind of forgot again. The Left Hand of God by Paul Hoffman. This is the first in a fantasy trilogy, I think, and I honestly cannot remember her name. Who recommended it on her channel? She was kind of doing like a fantasy recommendations video, and this was one of them on the list of like her top 10 fantasies, and once I remember, I'll put her name right here. I own most of the books that were on that list, and this was one of the ones that I didn't yet, and since it was on her top 10, and I absolutely love this booktuber, and it's funny because I can't even remember her name and I say that I like her so much. This next one I think is more like magical realism type of setting, and that is Red Girls by Kazuki Sakuraba, and I told you guys that I want to read more Japanese authors, but I kind of don't really want to read a Murakami. I don't know why, but reading the back, it seems more like magical realism type of thing. But let me just read the blurb that caught my attention and what made me buy the book. I still don't know too much about it, but this is what made me. It says, a multi-generational saga of matriarchs, manga, and murder. And that sounds awesome. I think it's a progression story about different generations of a family, like the females in a family. Something to do with clairvoyancy is all I really know. And manga. There's one of them is a manga artist, and so I was like, yes, I want to read you. This next pile is all hardback adult fantasy, and the first three are all in the same trilogy, so I'm just going to show you together. The Lotus War trilogy by J. Kristoff. I got this initially because Adriana from Perpetual Pages is kind of doing a laid-back read-along for Storm Dancer, the first book in the trilogy, and I went ahead and read it. Highly, highly enjoyed it, and I have not started the second book yet. I'm also trying to hold back to see if everybody else wants to continue doing a read-along for the trilogy, and perhaps she's going to be doing a read-along for Kinslayer in the month of June, so I'm also holding back for that reason. But I absolutely love these covers, so I have to show you all of the covers. So we have book 1, book 2, and then book 3. The next 3 are adult fantasy hardbacks that are new, first in series, and I don't know too much about them. They were all recommendations from the booktuber Bitten by a Radioactive Book, and I will leave a link to his channel down below. He is an amazing booktuber, and I get a lot of recommendations for fantasy from him, and he has very strong opinions, negative and positive, which is what I like, because I like to hear the negative. A lot of people try not to say negative things, but I want people to say negative things so that I don't end up wasting my time reading a book that's not that good. So first that I picked up is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, and this is the first in a new epic fantasy series by this person. Very heavily Asian influenced fantasy, and obviously I've been into that a lot, so we shall see. Not gonna lie, the next one I want to show you, it was mostly purchased because of the cover, and that is Range of Ghosts by Elizabeth Bear, and I absolutely was super attracted to the cover of all 3 of the books. I think it's a trilogy. All 3 of the books are beautiful, and that is definitely why I initially picked it up. Another thing that attracted me to it is I think it's fantasy, but set in like an Arabian era, and I haven't really read anything in that type of setting, so I'm very interested in checking this out, and it's very thin, so it'll probably be a very fast read. The next one I have is Throne of the Crescent Moon by Saladin Ahmed, and this is another one that I saw on Bitten by a Radioactive Books channel, and I want to check it out because, again, it has a setting that I don't really read a whole lot from. Again, also a very, very thin book. This is another first in a fantasy series, and if I enjoy this one, I will definitely continue. Well, that is all for this book haul. If you have any comments or questions, as always, leave them down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!